It is 7 o'clock, and I call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call attendance, please? You're on mute.
Councilmember Henry.
Present. Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock. Councilmember Sayer. Councilmember McKnight.
Present.
Mayor Johnson.
Present. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for tuning into tonight's meeting. We value our residents and community members, and we want to make sure that everyone who wants to participate and provide input can do so. This meeting is available live via the city's website by clicking on the video link under upcoming meetings on the homepage at cityofcarver.com. Or you can join remotely using Zoom video conferencing services and provide input. Information related to joining the Zoom conferencing services can be found on the city's website or attached to the agenda for this meeting. We ask that anyone wishing to address the council wait to be recognized by the mayor. Be respectful, wait for your turn to speak, and don't speak over one another. Callers will still need to provide their names and addresses for the record. All right. With that, can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Henry and a second by Councilmember McKnight. Any further discussion? All right. Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry.
Aye. Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Sayer.
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes 4-0. All right, community comment. This is the portion where if there are any members of the community who are on the Zoom, and it does not look like they are, but they can speak to us on any topic that's on their mind. Brent confirming that there's nobody on the Zoom. Okay. We have no presentations and reports tonight. We do have a public hearing, however. Let's see. So I will open the public hearing, and then Ms. Sans-Eiden, you can take it away.
And can I share my screen? Can everybody see my screen there?
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In recognition of the financial impact on our residents and businesses directly related to the COVID-19 federal, state, and local emergency declarations, the City Council, as you probably remember, suspended disconnection activities and late payment penalties related to utility accounts for the billing months of April through September of 2020. Throughout the entire year, city staff continued to work to collect delinquent utility charges. However, certain charges still remain unpaid. So at this time, in order to collect these unpaid balances and bring those particular accounts current, the City Council will consider the assessment of those delinquent utility accounts that are 3 billing periods and over. They are identified on a certification roll that is attached to the resolution that is in your council packet. And then those proposed assessments, once adopted by the City Council, will be certified to Carver County to the auditor prior to November 30th. And then those particular assessments will be payable for a period of 1 year. With the 2021 property taxes, that 1 year will have a 5% interest and a one-time 25% administrative fee. So what we are looking for this evening is if there are any public questions. There is a public hearing for that. Then we would close the public hearing. Then I would take any additional questions from the council, and I would be looking for an adoption of the resolution with the attached assessment roll that is in the council packet for this evening.
All right. With that, are there any public comments? Let's see. And Brent, it still looks like there is just council members and staff on the call, or on the video call, right?
Correct.
Okay. So with that, I will assume there are no public comments. And I am looking at this point for a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to public hearing. Maybe to Glenn.
All right. Give the motion to Councilmember McKnight and the second to Councilmember Henry. Any further discussion? Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry.
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Sayer.
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes 4-0 to close the public hearing. At this point, Council, do you have any comments or questions? Glenn,
I don't.
Okay, nothing from Joy. Glenn,
No.
anything from you? Oh.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Then I would entertain a motion. Okay, I will make a motion to adopt resolution 147-20, adopting and certifying liens of delinquent utilities and municipal fees.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Mayor Johnson and a second by Councilmember Henry. Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry.
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Sayer.
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes 4-0. Moving on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I like the hustle. I'll give that some
second that.
joy. You've got the motion by Councilmember McKnight and a second by Councilmember Henry. Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry.
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Sayer.
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes 4-0. All right, moving on to other business. 8.1, the water treatment plant award of bids. Brent, does this go to you or directly to Mr. Lennis?
Right to Dan.
Okay, take it away, Mr. Lennis.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Brent, I'm unable to share my screen. I pull up a few things here. All right. There we go. All right. Well, as you probably browsed it, what we're looking for here is award recommendation resolutions for 3 different bid results. So what we have is some good news.
Dan, I don't think we're seeing your screen if you think you're sharing it.
Try again. Where the heck is it? How about this? Is
No.
it popping up yet?
Nope.
No.
There we go.
Got it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what we're looking for is actions on 3 different bids that occurred recently here for well drilling, the brown water mains, and the water treatment facility itself. So I'm not going to go back through I guess the majority of the project. We've had so many presentations on this. I think everybody knows what the majority of the content here. So I'll answer any questions, and we're going to browse through these fairly quickly. But we did take bids on well number 5, which is the first well of 2 wells that's been on the water treatment facility expansion budget. We took bids on the raw water mains that is effectively the piping that goes from the well to the water treatment facility, both of which are to increase our well supply capacity. And then, of course, there's the water treatment facility expansion itself. So going through the bid results here, the first bid for the well drilling, 2 bidders submitted bids. We got a very favorable bid amount of $480,000 trout companies, reputable driller that is certainly capable of doing the work. In the raw water main project, we got a lot of interest on that one. That's the piping from well to the water treatment facility. We had a total of 8 bidders interested in that project, ranging from almost 1.5 down to just under 1.1. Again, very favorable bid results. So that was below the estimate again. And then finally, the water treatment facility itself here, the expansion, 4 bids, a low bid of 5.24. Effectively, Magni Construction, reputable contractor capable of doing the work. So just to give you a little bit of insight on one that you haven't looked at quite as much as far as the projects here, the raw water main. We just wanted to show you a quick glimpse of what that project is going to look like. More to come on that when construction gets a little bit closer. We're not expecting anything until spring. But what's in blue is drilled water main. The orange areas are where there might be smoke and cutting occurring. So there's quite a bit of drilled work where along Spring Creek Drive you wouldn't even see major construction activities. It's going to be in these orange areas where that activity would occur. More to come on that as construction gets a little bit closer, but that's just a refresher on what the project is. It comes all the way out to well number 5 and across Highway 212, connecting up number 4, all the way back to the water treatment facility. So again, that's spring work. So going back to the big picture issues that might be of interest, the contract would actually be happening sooner or later is the water treatment facility itself, Magni Construction. They actually would be looking to start yet this winter. So you'd be seeing some footings occurring here later in the, possibly later in the month, in December. They'd be doing footings and then a reclaim tank, which is on the north side of the water treatment facility. So that would be some of the work that would actually happen over the winter time. The other 2 contracts you wouldn't see much until spring. So the financials of this, when we ran the preliminary budget versus the post-bid budget, accounting for the bid results, which again are very favorable, we're looking at about a 5% reduction against budget at this point. We are preserving a fair amount of construction contingency in the water treatment facility. There's a reason for that. We don't want to say that there's a 100% guarantee where the number is going to come in a contract. Lots of stuff comes up when they're doing construction. They can dig a hole in the ground and find stuff that we have to pay them to move items and things of that nature. So we are preserving a 10% construction contingency, which should be plenty, but it's appropriate for budgeting. And then, of course, we do have to preserve water main dollars for the JCP crossing, which also comes out of this budget, and then well number 6, which is a whole other contract that actually would occur at a later date after well number 5 is drilled in the ground. And effectively, we know what it's going to do to the aquifer. At that point, well number 6 could be sited. We are increasing the budget on that one just for the time being until we know exactly where number 6 can go, because the DNR is going to have to look at well number 5 and decide where we would be allowed to put number 6. So we've increased it a little bit just to be cautious about what can come of the costs on that well, just to make sure that we've got enough. But even with that, we still are projecting a little 5% decrease on our overall budget. So with that, I will open it up to any questions. With parting words, we are requesting actions on those 3 contracts to award.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Favorable bids and came in below the engineer's estimate. Maybe some of my favorite things to see. So thank you for that. Just kind of looking at this that you pointed out, the difference, I appreciate you pointing out kind of the newer budget for well number 6, but looking at that as a line-by-line comparison between well number 5 and well number 6, it seems to be almost, 3 times as much. Can you explain the differences in the 2?
Yes. What it is the well drilling contract is just the drilling contract itself. That is just to drill a hole in the ground down into the aquifer. We have quite a bit of money tied into the water treatment facility contract itself to build a well house, well control building. All the controls for that well are tied into the water treatment facility budget at $5.2 million. And so there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that are tied into that because we felt it was the most cost effective and favorable way to bid the job because of the type of work, the type of plumbing, and it's some building work. And so if you actually look at the cost to build that well, that first well, it's this number, that 480 plus hundreds of thousands that are in the water treatment facility budget. And so that gets it up a little bit closer to that $1 million range when you factor it all in together. And then the increase has got nothing to do with the well itself. It has to do with the piping that we're being cautious about. If we have to plunk well number 6 way far away, we're putting in a couple $100,000 of possible drilled pipe to get to that location. And so that's the difference. 1.2 is still a fairly conservative number for 6. The over and above is just piping. And I would say these two numbers, the 480 plus the number in the water treatment facility, would make it, seem a little bit more balanced.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. My apologies if you went over that earlier.
Nope, I didn't. Good question.
Council, any other questions or comments?
Just a comment.
Go ahead,
I see that a lot. I see that a lot of the other costs were 5% decreases across the board, but our soft costs didn't go down a penny. I understand we're still going to have costs involved, whether they're, but that's still a chunk of change, but it is what it is. I like the results of the bids coming in lower. Yeah, let's just get the project moving.
And Mr. Henry, the answer to that is I've held the budget. I'm just keeping it the same. I'm projecting it to come in under, and I'll tell you at the end. It's right now. So everything goes to plan. It'll come in below.
Perfect. Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
Joy, questions, comments?
No, all looks good. I like to see coming under our estimate. Bids coming in under the estimate. It's nice to see that there's also a lot of interest. I gotta imagine the construction industry is pretty busy right now, but it's good to see lots of options to choose from. So it's good.
Thanks, Joy. Anything from you, Lori?
No.
Okay. Okay, with that, we need a literal trifecta of resolutions.
Mm-hmm. I'll start with, I make a motion to adopt resolution 140-20, awarding a contract to Trout Companies in the amount of $480,695 for the municipal well number 5 and DNR compliance monitoring well project.
I will second that.
We have a motion by Councilmember McKnight and a second by Councilmember Henry. Any further discussion? Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry.
Aye, Len Henry.
Councilmember Sayer.
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes 4-0. On to the second.
I keep going.
Sure.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 149-20, awarding a contract to Northdale Construction Company, Inc. in the amount of $1,081,115.79 for the water system expansion utility improvements project.
I will second that.
Right, we have a motion by Councilmember McKnight and a second by Councilmember Henry. Any further discussion? Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry.
Aye, Len Henry.
Councilmember Sayer.
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes 4-0.
All right, I make a motion to adopt resolution 150-20, awarding a contract to Magni Construction, Inc. in the amount of $5,239,400 for the water treatment facility improvements project.
I will second that.
Popular combination. We have a motion by Councilmember McKnight and a second by Councilmember Henry. Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry.
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Sayre.
Hi, Lori Sayre.
Councilmember McKnight.
Hi, Joy McKnight.
Mayor Johnson.
Hi, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes 4-0. All right. Did I skip Callie? I think I'm just realizing that I completely blew over
I think you're correct.
Callie for presentations and reports. So if everybody's okay with that, with my extreme and most sincere apologies, Callie, let's talk about the emergency response report, Chief Turnbull. I'm so sorry.
No problem. I was asked to give a brief update on the Carver Crossing fire that we had on October 29th. So I'll just spend you a couple minutes talking about it and then answer any questions that you might have. We were paged out on October 29th at 1:57. Deputy Chief Walsh was first on scene at 2:01. The building has already started to be evacuated. The alarms were sounding. There was no signs of smoke or visible fire from the outside. He proceeded inside the building where he made his way up to the 3rd floor. At that time, our engine 12 checked on scene. He requested them to bring a water can, which is a new thing that we're trying to do in our fire service, where we just bring up a water can, and a large percentage of the fires we can actually attack with just a fire extinguisher with water in it. So they continue. Chief Walsh continued up to do an investigation. He looked down the 3rd floor hallway. He seen smoke coming out of a unit. He then upgraded it to first alarm structure fire. He exited the building and reported to the command post. He later on in the fire would upgrade it to a 2nd alarm. And I'll go through all the departments that responded in a minute. Engine 12 crew proceeded into the building up to apartment 321. The hallway was smoky and water was coming out of unit 321. They made entry into that unit where there was 0 visibility. They found a sprinkler controlled fire and extinguished it, the flames over the range. Chaska Chief 1 arrived on scene at that time, where they assisted the occupant of that fire apartment, where she had smoke inhalation, and transferred to Ridgeview and was transferred to Waconia. In a total, we had Chaska Fire, Victoria Fire, Shakopee Fire, Clone, and Eden Prairie all respond to the Carver Crossing fire. We utilized the elementary school for staging residents during the fire and until we determined which apartments were livable. At the end of the event, we had one unit that was it had fire and water damage. We had 12 other units that had water damage. In total, we had 10 families, 13 families that had to find a place to stay. 10 found their own place. 3 families were placed by the Red Cross. At that time, the investigation was turned over to the state's fire marshal's office, where they believe the fire started with some boxes placed on a stove, as the people in apartment 321 were just moving in that day. So, do you have any questions for me?
Callie, you said a sprinkler-controlled fire. What does that mean?
It means that the fire, as there was a fire in the unit, it was controlled by a sprinkler heads that was going off. Excuse me, where it wasn't going to spread, but it was managed. So when we got there, we had to do a little bit of cleanup, put out the small flames that were going off, and then do some overhauling. Okay.
And then can you tell us a little bit more about the water can? I may have done a Google search and all I get is like a watering can image.
It's a basic fire extinguisher that holds 2.5 gallons of water and some foam that you can basically spray. We were able to put the fire out with that. So it's really a quick response unit that you can basically just the truck and run up and if it was a basic room and content fire, smaller fire in a house, we could pretty much attack it that way.
Very cool. Does anybody else have any questions for Chief Turbo? Go ahead, Glenn.
Was there any water damage that leached down into the 2nd level, or was all 3rd level damage?
No, we believe apartment directly below it achieved water damage, along with some that might have been on the first floor. So only the units directly below that one, and second floor and first floor, did acquire water damage. Other than that, the water damage spread out across the third floor.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead, Joe.
So you may have said this, but did the fire, the flames, didn't go beyond that initial unit, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Lori, any questions?
No.
All right. Kelly, thank you. You guys have been busy. Really well done, and demonstrates the power of partnerships with the school district and everybody else who participated that day. So thank you all. Please tell everybody what a good job you did.
Just on a side note, October is we had 20 calls. That was the busiest month in the past 4 years. So you guys did a great job. So.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to attend training. You guys have a great night.
Yeah.
And good luck getting into the game early.
Yes.
Is there a game tonight?
Yeah, Courtney, there is.
Okay. Again, Kelly, I'm sorry for skipping over you. Okay, let's see. Moving on here, we are at 8.2, the JCP Improvement Project, talking about some incentive scheduling. Mr. Lennis.
Excuse me, Mary, I just wanted to confirm, Vicki, did we get all 3 resolutions adopted? Okay, thank you.
Well, good evening again here. This one should be fairly quick here. What we're looking for is direction for county. A county will say recommendation, an idea that they brought forward for the contracting of JCP. What really came of this here is we're going to be working hard to try and push schedule on JCP contracts such that when they bid this job here in February, they're understanding the terms and what we're really dealing with is a couple of major milestones. One of which is the end of the summer when school begins, and then of course in the late fall at the substantial completion of the job. So really, your options generally come down to a couple different things here. Most times you put in a completion date and say, all right, you're supposed to be done by this date, say the end of August or beginning of September before school starts, and then again at the end of the year in November we'll want the entire project done, and then they'd be liquidated damages for failing to complete the work on time. The county's had some success, and I've run through a number of contracts with this type of I guess motivation. We haven't released them personally, but I've seen it implemented in which they offer incentives instead of just damages. So the way the incentive process would work is they would write it into the contract. So we need to give them some direction to either do this or not do it, and whether or not the city would participate in this. But they would write it into the contract where the contractor has incentive to actually finish early. And so let's take an example here that's in your packet here for, we'll say, end of school, or the beginning of the school year, end of summer. Say we'll pick a completion date in the contract and say September 3rd. The contract would say you need to be done by September 3rd. If you don't, then there's often damages behind it. If you finish early, however, like say 5 days early, they put some substantial incentive dollars towards early completion. It might be as big as like $10,000 a day for 10 days, for example, up to $100,000. So what this does is it gives the contractor some pretty substantial motivation to finish a week early. For example, they're going to be really trying to get those incentive dollars. And what it does is it kind of reverses the momentum from the dispute arena for not finishing on time to incentive arena for them to actually flex some dollars to get out ahead of time. And what the county is really looking for is some commitment to concur with this methodology by the city, and then a dollar amount that we would say we'd be comfortable with cost sharing. And so the way cost sharing for incentives would work is it gets split by pro-rata share. So if the city, hypothetical split on this job, if it's 33%, for example, and the county is 67, that item, incentives, would get split up by the prorated share of the project. It's just one of those items that would be split up by a formula based on the amount the city has got into the project. So if we were to say $100,000 in the incentives they're going to split out, the city might be paying up to $30,000, give or take, based on the incentives that the contractor could earn. Now, if he's late, he doesn't earn any, or the contracting company doesn't earn any. So if they get 1 day of incentive, then the split's going to be $3,000, $7,000, for example. And so we would be looking for direction from the city on going along with the county's take that there's value on this project, that there's value to the city to try and motivate the contractor to finish before the end of the summer, and for that matter, before the end of the year. So I can open it up for questions. I can tell you the biggest contract that you might be aware of that heavily utilized incentives is 35W. That was a huge incentive-laden contract. They gave the contractor many millions of dollars for finishing early, and that's the way the contract was written. It's not obviously the same scope of incentives here, but it's kind of a smaller, I guess, suggested amount based on the size of the project. So, any questions? I'll turn it over to you.
Dan, that's the 35W bridge project you're referring to, right? With the
35W bridge replacement project when the whole bridge failed and they rebuilt it, yes.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Just for some additional context, the city has had some experience in this. There was an incentive provided for the pedestrian underpass that was built just north of White Pine Way. I don't have all the details committed to memory, but it was something consistent with the road could only be closed for, I think, up to 48 hours. And if they hit that mark, an incentive was going to be provided. So I don't have the details, but the city council and the city in general have had experience in providing incentives related to construction projects.
All right. Questions, comments on this from anybody? Go ahead, Glenn.
Thank you, Brent, for interjecting that. I was going to mention the tunnel. Do we have a funding source identified for this, or will we just kind of roll with it?
We're able to finance it within the contingencies for the project. I mean, and that's kind of a moving target. I mean, it depends on where bids land. Ultimately, if the council supports the idea, we'll figure out a way to pay for it, whether it's through the existing budget or the special capital fund. I do think, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, but I do think that there'll be some additional expectations related to this project being completed before school starts, because there's probably, I think for a lot of people, next September will be kind of the first day of the new world, where hopefully, knock on wood, COVID is done, and that maybe that construction is done. And so I think there's likely to be a lot of community pressure and sentiment that project be completed before another physical obstacle is presented to that area. So just some food for thought.
Go ahead, Glenn.
I am 100% behind using incentives to get this project done before school starts in the fall. It does motivate contractors, but this is a huge project, and people will be pained with the JCP project along with 212. So let's get ours done as soon as possible, and the incentives, I believe, will help move the project along. We won't have the downtown dilemmas that we had where Beautiful days, nobody working. Beautiful days, they will be working. There is an incentive at the end of the tunnel. So that's my 2 cents worth. We can always figure out the dollar amount. I suppose are they looking for a dollar amount tonight? Is that what I'm hearing, Brent?
Yeah, it'd be if we set the $100,000 as the max, we'd probably be looking in broad strokes at about 35,000 of that. And just to highlight, so this would just be for the opening of that phase 2. The project wouldn't, to my understanding, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, wouldn't be completely done by school. It just, that road section would be completed, or am I mistaken?
No, that's right. Before the school year, it's just to reopen that section of road between Ironwood and 6th. There's another completion date at the end of the year for substantial completion of the whole road.
At the end of the year?
Yeah, that November. That's when the road is intended to be substantially complete. This is just intended to reopen the segment of road that's hard closed over the summer.
Got it.
You good, Glenn?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Joy.
I also fully support this. I agree that the start of the school year is a big deal. And just not having a day where bus traffic could be impacted and throwing the whole school schedule off. Plus, I know as a parent, your commute and travel changes a lot with the beginning of the school year. So it isn't just necessarily the bus traffic, but it's also a lot of the residential traffic that is going to be changing patterns around that time. And so I think it'll be really impactful if we can open that section on time or earlier, just to prevent any impacts thereof to the schools or other commuters. I think it's really important. So I support it. As Brent says, it sounds like it's kind of within our contingencies. And of course, we can kind of look at the budget, as bids come in and finalize the details. But I support the up to $35,000 or whatever was recommended with the county.
All right. Thank you, Joy. Lori?
I echo what Councilmember Henry Ann McKnight said. I guess we'll pay for a little convenience. So for those reasons, yes, I could support partnering with the county for an incentive program for a contractor or contractors.
All right. And I also have absolutely zero issues with offering an incentive with this. I think, the way I look at this is, while this is a hard deadline to hopefully dangle that carrot to get the contractors to finish phase 2, it'll actually effectively encourage them to finish phase 1 on time so that they can get to phase 2. As I've been talking to folks about this project, make no mistakes, it isn't going to be without its pain points next summer, and probably a lot of them. So if we can do anything to lessen that pain and to rip off that Band-Aid, I am all for it. So I am comfortable with going up to $35,000 as well. Do you need a specific number from us tonight, Brent and Dan?
No, I think we have that. So our plan is to bring you the joint powers agreement for the project at your next meeting on December 7th. We just needed that feedback. They had requested it, and as a staff, we didn't feel like we were in a position to make that decision. So we wanted to get that feedback. So that'll be incorporated into the plans, and then you'll essentially adopt that with the joint powers agreement at your next meeting.
Okay. All right. So you have what you need from us.
Correct.
Great. Okay. All right. Moving on to council member communications. Joy, you want to start us off?
I guess the only thing I want to say is I did watch the Carver County new JCP open house video. Well done is all I have to say. It's 8 minutes worth watching for anybody. I even learned some new things that I feel like we've seen this project umpteen times, but it was a perfect overview of the project, what's new, some good details, specifically around sidewalks and trails, landscaping, etc. And then also just reiterating the construction schedule, right? What's going to be closed when. I thought it was a really informative piece of video, another good opportunity to get some more feedback and questions from the public. So kudos to the project team for putting that out. Really nice. That's all I have.
All right. Glenn?
I have a planning commission meeting on Thursday night, so we'll have some updated stuff on that. I am excited to hear about Timber Creek coming to fruition, so we'll keep us up to speed on what's going on there. That's all I got.
All right. Lori?
No updates or communications today. Thank you.
All right. So I have a little bit of a laundry list. First of all, the Jonathan Carver Parkway open house was on my list as well, Joy. So thank you for mentioning that. The website is co.carver.mn.us / what would that be? JCP improvements. So super easy. Check it out. It'll tell you a lot about the project. Let's see. I appreciate the weekly updates from Deputy Sandberg. Those have been really insightful and kind of a good gauge on kind of the more detail and the more personal side of what's going on in the calls that she and Deputy Charlie are responding to. So I appreciate that. It's a little bit easier to read than the weekly or the monthly reports that we get from the Sheriff's Department. So I really appreciate that. Tonight in our consent agenda, we approved receiving some money from Dahlgren Township for their CARES Act funding that's going to be used for our fire department, and I just wanted to call that out and give the folks in Dahlgren a huge thank you for that. That money will definitely be put to good use. We have 2 new businesses in downtown Carver, which is really exciting. First one is the Funky Dove, which is a little gift shop, arts, jewelry, Christmas decor right now, wall hangings, really decent prices. I checked that out. They opened, kind of did a super soft opening last weekend, but they are adorable, and they are located where the bait shop used to be. The bait shop has moved to the, what would that be, the west side of Broadway, downtown, so make sure you check them out. And then the Charlie Mack Salon has also opened recently, and that is owned by Carver's own Sally Knapp, and the pictures that she has posted of that space on Facebook are amazing. So the Knapps did a really, really good job, and they are just kitty corner from City Hall, right across the street from the post office. Let's see, the Chamber Luncheon, the Mayor's Luncheon is this year no longer a luncheon. That's the con. The pro is that it is free and it's via Zoom and anybody can participate, and I think it's not too late to register. So if you go to the Chamber's website, under events, you can sign up and register and participate. I did get the email, and it looks like Carver is going last, so my presentation won't be until closer to about 12:30. So just a heads up if you're only interested in certain portions of it. Let's see. The only other thing that I had for council was within the past couple of weeks, Chad and I were talking to a resident whose home and yard backs up to the levee trail in downtown Carver, and she has expressed some concern and displeasure about residents who will be walking their dogs along the levee trail and don't pick up after their dogs. And we kind of bounced around with her suggestion, the idea of putting in those little kiosks that has the doggy waste bags that are available for folks there. And I just wanted to kind of open that up and see what council thought about that. I think it's a good idea. I don't hate the idea, but I'm also a little concerned that I don't think that it's a one-stop shop, I don't think it's going to solve the issue here. I don't think having those bags readily available is going to make somebody who is completely comfortable and fine with letting their dog relieve themselves in the middle of nowhere and not pick it up, that's going to change them into the person that will start picking that up. And I also think, we have got a lot of trails in Carver, so why would we only put those stations in one area? So I just kind of wanted to open that up to a super quick discussion, knowing that I'm sure that there's a football game that y'all are looking forward to getting to. Go ahead, Glenn.
I just would like to reiterate there are a lot of trails. Pick a trail. They all have feces on them. All we can do is ask people to be better citizens and clean up after your dogs. Do the responsible thing. That's all I ask. That's all I got.
Do I read that you're not in favor of the kiosks?
No,
Okay.
because pick a trail.
Okay.
They're everywhere.
Okay. Joy, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree the kiosks would bring awareness, if not some compliance. They're not going to be the be-all, end-all solution. And I agree, we have so many trails and things like that. If we had a dog park, that would be something different. We could, I feel like we could allocate kiosks for that. But I think that it's just education. I know in my neighborhood, there's a lot of complaints about on sidewalks, on trails, and it's just the constant nagging and awareness, and it gets better for a while, and then, we got to remind people again. So yeah, right. It's tough.
Okay.
I agree.
Thank you, Joy. Lori, thoughts? You're on mute before you get to your thoughts.
Sorry. No, it's really hard to make people have that behavior change, unfortunately. I mean, other than public shaming, if I saw somebody do it, maybe I would take a picture and post it on Facebook.
All right. Maybe. So I hear you as well saying that you're not in favor of the kiosks.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the thinking of that aloud and kind of doing the roundabout to figure out where everybody's at on that. The only other thing that I have, and I can't believe, as excited as I am to wrap up this year, I can't believe that we're here already, but I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. We will see everybody again in December. So, Mr. Merrick, do you have any updates?
Yeah, I have a few. I think the council is aware, but for those that are watching, the city participates every Monday in a kind of a Carver or a COVID-19 emergency management call with the county and all their various departments, all the cities, school districts, and other stakeholders throughout the county. And so as a part of that, they provide an update on cases and response in the county. And their message today was that cases are up over 300% in Carver County in the last 7 days. And so it's given me some pause. I've talked to some folks, and the way that we think about the pandemic is obviously different than it was in March and April. But I also think that we gained some experiences, and so I'd like to advocate for the council to support, at least until things in the community appear differently, to go back to a virtual setting. And so what that would mean is we continue to operate, in City Hall and in public services, all our departments, but we close the service counter at City Hall, and I have to give our leadership team and their folks a lot of credit. We've done a really good job with that, whether it's applying for building permits, inspections, utility, billing, etc. But I think it provides an extra level of safety for our team, our staff here at City Hall. And so I'd like to advocate for that, as well as not moving forward with any additional facility reservations in this interim period as well. We do have one group that rents the church on a regular basis, but other than that, we don't have any reservations from outside groups on the books. So I just wanted to get some feedback from the council before we decide to move forward with that plan, if there's any concerns before we do so.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Thank you for bringing it to the forefront, Brent. Yes, cases are up 325%. But I would like to say that the death toll has still been 9 in Carver County. It's been 9 in Carver County since the end of July. We are testing and extremely a lot of people now, which is great. I have no problems about shutting down the counter, just for everybody's pure safety, but I just want to remind everybody that the total death toll of COVID cases in Carver County right now stands at 9 people, and it's been there since August. So those are my 2 cents, but yes, Brent, we can certainly shut down the counter just for everybody's protection.
I just wanted to be clear, though, the one item, so pending the support of the council, we would elect to close it on Wednesday, so we'd have a day to message to our partners and our teams prior to doing so. But with that, I'll throw it back to the balance of the council.
Do you have kind of a sense of how long, what kind of interval we would be looking at? Would you say like at a minimum 2 weeks and reevaluate it, or?
Yeah, I would. Well, similar to kind of our past practice, I'd like to check in with the council at each of your meetings and say what we see. But depending upon where you get your news and how you can consume it, it feels like this next at least month is going to be significant. And knock on wood, I think we don't have a drop in service and haven't had concerns about a drop in service. So, but my plan would be then to check in on the 7th at your next meeting, check in on the 21st, so we have that ongoing conversation. But I mentioned to the mayor earlier today, there are, for sure the county, and I know there are other cities throughout the metro that haven't been open to the public since March. So I certainly no means think that we're being on the kind of cutting edge of being conservative with this, but I do think there's a solid narrative. In the past, we used the school kind of shutting down and going online last spring as a kind of jumping off point. We had talked internally about using another stay-at-home order as of another impetus to closing, but frankly, I don't think the politics of our state at this point are going to lend itself to another stay-at-home order. And so kind of going back to this thought of, the school being online, or at least our local school district being 100% online learning, I think once they start integrating back into a hybrid model, or if, as we have these council meetings every 2 weeks, if we just, have some sense, that there's progress being made, vaccine or cases are going down. But I think that ultimately the concern I have, first is our team, but second is the size of our team. And, we essentially have one person that does one task in a role. So if we had 3 to 4 people go down, in close quarters here at City Hall, we'd be in tough shape. We have contingency plans. We'll be able to make it work. But, are there things that we can do to avoid being in that situation? I think that this is one of them.
Yeah, I'd agree. It makes sense. I support it.
Lori? You're on mute again.
Sorry. I support it if it's something we need to do middle of this week. And I like to just looking ahead, knowing that we're not going to be together as a council until December 7th. And that we can just kind of reevaluate every few weeks when we're together, or if Brett needs to bring us together. Definitely open to that.
Thank you, Lori. Brent, Chad, can you guys remind me, we never really reopened the public services building and decided that just doesn't make sense to have that as a public space, correct? That's locked 24/7?
Correct. That's going to be our ongoing view. It's not really a public-facing space. We'd prefer if residents, contractors, etc., have questions if they come to City Hall, and so we we don't have great security at that building as it relates. If we leave the doors open for that, you know, you can kind of really walk anywhere. So having that close to the public and directing people to City Hall has been a better way for us to provide service. And so we're going to continue to do that even once we get through the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. And just, you know, sharing with council, Brent, what I shared with you earlier and kind of reiterating what Brent had to say, you know, our threshold for closing down City Hall this spring was, let's wait and see what the school district does. When the school district closes, we will close. Well, here we are again. So I think that this is a good time. This is a good, you know, and consistent policy to have, that when the school district goes to remote learning, it makes sense for us to take that extra step to provide that full level of protection for our employees. Glenn, I appreciate what you said about death rate, but this is not about death rate. This is about the safety, the health and safety of our employees. My dad had COVID. He didn't leave his bed for more than a week, and that's not in my dad's DNA. We all know somebody who is really, really sick with COVID. This is not something that you want. And just the consistency of services, and with our really small but nimble and amazing staff, we don't want any of them to get sick. So if we can do anything to prevent that,
I certainly
now is the
understand that,
time
Madam
to
Mayor.
do that. I'm speaking. So, so if we have the opportunity to keep folks home, and I think we've got a good plan in place, and we are, 6, 7, 8 months into this, and we have all of the remote policies, we can do this now. It's not as big of a transition as it was when we were looking at this in March. So I am completely fine and completely support shutting down City Hall to just walk-in traffic. Brent, did you get what you need from us on that?
Yep. So we'll, I'll send out a note after the meeting tonight to the staff, and then tomorrow we'll start messaging that via social media and the website and the like.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Merrick?
No, thank you.
All right. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A motion by Councilmember Henry.
I'll second.
Oh, I'll give that one to Lori. And a second by Councilmember Sayre. Any further discussion? Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry.
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Sayre.
Aye, Lori Sayre.
Councilmember McKnight.
Hi, Joy McKnight.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes 4-0. Stay healthy, stay safe, everybody, and have a good night.
Thank you.